Good afternoon. Welcome to Brunel University London and our Cognitive and Clinical Neuroscience MSc webinar. Our webinar will be delivered by Dr. Jaap Munneke, who will be supported by Professor Veena Kumari. If you do have any questions you'd like to ask on today's webinar, could you please type them into the question box on the right-hand side of your screen, and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. Without further ado, I will now hand you over to Dr. Jaap Munneke.
All right, thank you. All right, so a little bit more. So my name is Jaap Munneke. I am the course convener for this new MSc, and next to me is Veena Kumari, who is the director of the Center for Cognitive Neuroscience, which is the center that sort of initiated this new MSc. There's two things that we're going to discuss today. First of all, obviously, what does the MSc really contain? What are the topics that you'll be taught about? And second of all, why Brunel? So let's go to the first slide. So the MSc in Cognitive and Clinical Neuroscience. What is it? What does it mean? Well, first of all, it is a very vibrant and fast developing field of science. It's also a very broad field of science. It encompasses several branches of science, such as neuropsychology, neuroscience, cognitive psychology. These are all topics that study the relationship between behavior and the brain. Then there's clinical psychology, psychiatry, and neurology. Obviously, more about disorders. You get taught about neuroimaging. How do we actually scan the brain, measure the active brain? There's topics psychopharmacology, drugs and the brain, and genetics, which will speak for itself. So, what is the focus of this new MSc? Well, obviously, this is not a new field. It has a long history, and you'll be learning about the historical, but also the contemporary concepts and the theories underpinning human behavior. You'll be learning, how theories have developed over time and where the field stands now. On top of that, you'll be taught new, novel neuroscience methods, cutting-edge methods that we use in science these days, and also their application to understand actually how the brain works and how it relates to behavior. You'll be learning about the core cognitive and affective processes and their associated neurology. And if a process gets disrupted, how this might lead to neuropsychiatric disorders, such as autism or schizophrenia. Given these disorders, you will also be learning about interventions to enhance brain functions and promote mental health. To do so, you'll be learning about methods to conduct research related to important contemporary issues in cognitive neuroscience and translational research. So, in a bit more detail, what are the contents of this program? Well, first of all, you'll get a strong and good overview of the human brain, which structures, which functionality, etc. You'll be learning about methods to delineate brain structures and functions using all sorts of methodologies. Methods to understand specific cognitive and affective domains. For example, you can use simple neuropsychological approaches or experimental approaches, electrophysiological approaches such as EEG. So we have a whole range of methodologies ranging from MRI to EEG that we can do. And of course also your standard computational experiments. You'll be learning about relevant theoretical concepts, but also exciting new evidence on neuroscience of specific cognitive domains in healthy and clinical populations. This is really the forefront of where the field currently stands. This is what you'll be learning. You'll be learning about the pharmacological challenges that exist currently. What happens to the brain or to the human being during the use of drugs. You'll be learning about cognitive recovery and rehabilitation after brain damage, how we go about these things. And we'll try to instill a good understanding of contemporary research. You'll be dealing with a critical appraisal of the relevant literature. This is the way to understand where the field currently stands and how to move it forward. So this is the program structure. This is what the structure looks like if you take on this MSc in full time. So there's a taught component and a research component. The taught component is always in term 1 and term 2, and the research component, which is your dissertation, will occur in term 3. So in term 1, there's a number of modules. For example, you start out with research methods and academic skills for the life sciences. There's 30 credits, on a total of 180 credits. You'll be doing historical and contemporary issues in psychology, meaning history, where does the field stand now, and these are the things you need to know if you want to move the field forward. What do we know, and how can we build on that to do new research that gives us new insight in these topics? And then there's the neuroscience methods, theory and practice. The theory tells you a lot about how we can measure the brain, but obviously there's also a practical component where, for example, you'll be doing some EEG or fMRI, where you do brain scans and you get to analyze the brain activity, also give you an understanding of how these methods are used to understand cognitive and clinical neuroscience. So that's term one. And term two is a more theoretical term. You'll be learning about cognitive and clinical neuroscience, the core topics. There's a whole diverse array of topics that will be taught to give you a full overview of all the relevant topics that are currently ongoing within this field. There's a module on cognitive psychopharmacology and addiction, very relevant, obviously, a very relevant module. Then there's cognitive rehabilitation and plasticity, what happens to your brain after an accident, or if you're born with a brain deficit. And then there's preparation for research. If you aim to further your career in research, this is a very useful module where you learn how to do meta-analyses, how to critically appraise literature, and how to, of course, write well scientifically. And then in term three, that is a dissertation. You'll be doing some research. You'll be doing research, broad, large research projects in collaboration with a supervisor within the module, within the realm of cognitive and clinical neuroscience. You'll be analyzing this data yourself, and then you'll be writing a dissertation on it. So that is a short overview of the program. I would like to emphasize how broad this field is. You really see the different topics reflected in the different modules. As I said, it contains so many different fields, from neuropsychology, neuroscience, etc. So these modules try to cater to all these different topics. Here you see the same program, but now if you do it part-time, and you see this divide between year 1 and year 2. So if you do it part-time, meaning in 2 years, then the first year will consist of research methods and academic skills in term 1, then cognitive and clinical neuroscience, the core topics in term 2. You'll start working on your dissertation already in the term 3 of the first year, and you'll be completing that in term 3 of the second year. In the second year, you will also get historical and contemporary issues in psychology and neuroscience methods. Again, 3-year practice in term 1, and then cognitive psychopharmacology and addiction, cognitive rehabilitation and plasticity, and preparation for research in term 2. So that's full-time and part-time. And this is a broad overview of the modules. So how will you be assessed on these modules? Here you see on the left column, you see all the modules again, and on the right side, you can see how you're getting assessed. I'm just going to go over all of them quickly. Not in detail because that would take too much time. Let's start at the top. So the research methods and academic skills for the life sciences, you have to write a laboratory report and do a take-home assignment, both 50%. For the historical and contemporary issues in psychology, you have a 2-hour scene exam. The neuroscience methods, you will do a written account of the results from a given data set, which shows you that you really get a hands-on experience with analyzing neuroscience data. Also, you will do a 20-minute PowerPoint presentation followed by some questions and answers of the audience, your peers, your advisors. Then in term 2, cognitive and clinical neuroscience, the core topics, you get a 2-hour multiple choice and unseen short answers. And you have to write a short essay, which is 30%, not 100%. For cognitive psychopharmacology and addiction, you have a 45-minute exam with multiple choice questions, plus you will write another essay. Cognitive rehabilitation and plasticity is a 1-hour unseen short answers exam. And preparation for research will be a critical appraisal and abstract writing exam. This is where you really learn how to write. So as you can see, the assessment is quite diverse. It's not just long unseen exams. We try to diversify the way we assess these modules in such a way that it best reflects the material that you have been taught. And so then there's the dissertation. Of course, a dissertation is a dissertation. You'll do a written dissertation of about 8,000 words, and you'll do it in a journal article format, usually APA. All right, so that's the module. So what are the entry requirements? You can find this also on the website, obviously. You need a UK first or second class to 1 honors degree or equivalent internationally recognized qualification in psychology, anthropology, biology, or a related subject in the psychological, social, behavioral, or life sciences, as single honors or as a major component of a joint honors degree. You can also apply with other degrees or with relevant work experience, and we'll be considering that on an individual basis. It is important that you speak English, obviously, so this is why the IELTS 6.5 or minimum 6 in all areas, a Pearson score of 58 or a Brunel ELT of 65% or minimum 60% in all areas. If you would like to apply to our program, you can see the address on the bottom of this page here. It's www.brunel.ac.uk/MSc-CCNEU. All right, so that about the masters. Now a little bit more about the university. Why would you choose Brunel as your university? Well, first of all, we have a beautiful campus, as you can see. It's not necessarily the most important factor, but it really adds to life as a student at a university. It's big, it has stores, bars, a bank, a nice field of grass where you can lounge. Restaurants, obviously. So yeah, that is, the campus by itself is really nice. It's green, it's just nice to walk around. But that's not the only facility that Brunel offers. Before I continue about some more facilities that we offer, I would like to tell you a little bit about where this new MSc actually fits in. So what you see here is a bit of an overview of how our current college is organized. So we have the College of Health and Life Sciences, which is like the main college. It's divided in two different departments, Department of Clinical Sciences and Department of Life Sciences. And then the Department of Life Sciences, again, is divided into three different divisions: bioscience, psychology, and sports science. Orthogonal to these different institutes, colleges, departments, and divisions, we have centers. And one of those centers is the Center for Cognitive Neuroscience. And the Center for Cognitive Neuroscience is basically the center that organizes this MSc. So you see this is an MSc that acts on all levels of the college, at the department level, at a division level, and at the college level, which again shows the breadth of the master's program. Here you see a number, not all of our staff members. We have a large group of experts. They really are experts in different kinds of fields. You see the fields listed there: cognitive psychology, clinical psychology, psychopharmacology. I'm not going to name all of them. You can read them for yourselves. These people all work in different fields, and these are the people that will teach you. And they all work in the forefront of their fields, so you really get an up-to-date overview of where the field of cognitive and clinical science currently stands. All right, I mentioned before that we have a number of things that can help you as a student. One of them is ASK, which is the Academic Skills Office, academic writing and study skills. As part of your training in writing and scientifically writing, you can ask for help. They provide courses, they provide information. They're not proofreaders, but they can really teach you how to write scientifically, how to get the best out of your writing abilities. This is available for every student at Brunel. Second, we have something called tutoring at Brunel. All students get assigned a tutor that normally remains with them during their time at Brunel. The tutor is responsible for supporting students' academic and personal development. They usually are very proactive in developing the relationship with their tutor group. So every once in a while you get an email from your tutor saying, "Hey, how's it going? Haven't seen you on campus for a while," or maybe you were not doing too well on a certain exam, or you're doing really well, who knows. He or she will discuss academic progress and achievement with you and provide appropriate guidance. And the tutors you can contact your tutors via email and weekly feedback and consultation hours. So this really is very strong support for you as a student for where you're struggling, or if you just want to talk about the courses that you have been taught. Finally, there's the Disability and Dyslexia Service. The university provides support for specific learning difficulties such as dyslexia, mental health difficulties such as anxiety, medical conditions such as epilepsy and arthritis. It is your responsibility to inform university about such disabilities so the university can take appropriate action. The service is always confidential. Obviously, information about you is only passed to other people in the university with your agreement to ensure that you're provided with support that you need. And you can read more on this at the website that you see posted here. And applications remain open until September, and And for more information, please visit this website. And if you have any questions, you can always either email me, Dr. Jaap Munneke, or Professor Veena Kumari. So thank you very much for joining us in this webinar.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, very, very detailed and very informative. Veena, is there anything you'd like to add to the presentation? Happy? Okay, great. So here's your opportunity to ask a few questions to both our sitting academics. The place, to type your questions is in the questions box. If you type it up there, we will answer them. So we've already had a couple that have come in. I'll answer the very first one, which is basically from Diana, I believe. She's asking, how long is this web session? Well, the session is as long as you want it to be, really. We're here for about a solid half an hour. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask, we'll stay and answer as many of those questions as we can. Yeah, but it's all down to you, of course. The main presentation, of course, is just finished. But if you have missed it today, we will certainly send a recording out of this presentation in a couple of weeks' time. Right, now we have had a couple of other questions that have come through. This is from William, who asked, will there be access to real brain scans on this program?
Absolutely. People who are interested in the course, they will, and people who registered on the course, become a student, they will all have access to go and watch people being scanned, patients being scanned during real-time experiments as part of their neuroscience practice sessions. They will also have a chance to analyze data that we get in terms of functional MRI activity, structural brain volumes, and so on. And many of perhaps students would also go on to choose a research project that would involve brain scanning for the project. And again, looking at data, and I'm hoping that many of students will actually be part of publications which will arise out of those research projects, as has been the case on some of our other courses.
Right, and there's also an EEG practical session. It doesn't give you nice brain pictures, but you can see your own brain activity. You can learn how to understand brain activity, also the temporal structure of how your brain, how different parts of the brain communicate with each other.
In fact, we have capacity to combine both EEG and functional MRI, which will allow us to look at information both in terms of spatial resolution as well as temporal.
Yeah.
Temporal information, of course, coming from functional MRI and temporal coming from EEG, and spatial information coming from fMRI in terms of being able to locate exactly where in the brain and when in the brain.
Right. Consecutively.
Excellent. Thank you very much. So we've got a couple of questions from Diane. The first one I'll actually be able to answer, where she asked, do we get slide notes of this presentation? Yes, certainly, Diane. I can send you a copy of the slide notes after this presentation. And the second question, which I'll pass back to the academics, is when does this course start?
The course starts running in September, so that's, I think, the first day. Is it October? Well, the academic year, it starts this academic year. The academic year starts on September 21st, I think, so it will be shortly after that date. I have to look actually at the academic calendar, which I don't have in front of me when this starts precisely, but it will be soon after the September 21st.
Fantastic, thanks, Jan. Okay, we have a question from Pobilas, who asked, would it be possible to be accepted onto this course with a 2-2 degree in sports health and exercise sciences?
I think we will perhaps need to look at all cases individually. And if someone is interested in doing this course with a 2-2 degree, I think we would like to speak to the student and potential student and then make a decision.
Great, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. So would you prefer for that student to email you? And then...
I think yes, that would be very helpful, absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you. Hope that answers your question, Pobilas. We have a question here from Alice, who asks, how much classroom-based learning is required on this course, or takes part on this course, I believe?
So it really is a three-way division here. So you have your dissertation, which is, of course, research-based, lab-based. Then there's the practical sessions, which happen mostly in term 1, where you do a lot of fMRI stuff, EEG stuff. And then term 2 is more the class-based stuff. There's also class stuff in term 1, but not nearly as much. So I would say about 40% is class-based. That's sort of a rough guess, but that should be about right.
Okay. Another question here from Diane. So it's a similar entry requirement question. Diane asks, will a 2-2 degree in psychology give eligibility for acceptance?
again, if we would like to get in touch with these potential students and make decisions.
Yeah, so please email us.
But anyone with a degree in psychology in general is eligible.
Absolutely.
And would be very suitable.
Fantastic. So we have reached the end of questions, but we will keep the webinar open for another couple of minutes if you do have any last minute questions you'd like to ask. And again, don't worry if you have missed today's webinar. We will certainly send out a full recording of today's webinar in a couple of weeks' time.
And again, please feel free to get in touch with myself, Veena Kumari, or my colleague, Dr. Jaap Munneke, anytime.
Yeah, we'll answer any questions that you have, obviously.
Okay. No, thank you, Diane, for your thanks. We're glad you enjoyed the session, so that's great. Hopefully, we'll see you in September. Fantastic. Well, I think that is it. So again, I hope everyone enjoyed the webinar today and found it very informative. Just to reiterate some of the points made earlier, if you do have any questions about this course, please contact Jaap or Veena, and you can see the email addresses on your screen right now. Obviously, if you want to find out a bit more about the course before getting in touch with us, again, the web address is on the screen. You can find out more information about the course and all the modules, entry requirements, etc. The webinar will be available in a couple of weeks' time and will be emailed to you. And that concludes our webinar today. So thank you very much for attending. And again, hopefully we'll see a few of you here in September. Thank you. Bye-bye.